Okay,
Go.
here we go. Hi everyone, welcome to She's of Love. We're with Mary Lou Coombe today, and we're talking about unity in diversity. So if you would like to join us, please comment below, and I'm just going to check that we are actually live in Facebook because that's what I like to do. Yes, we are. Awesome.
Woohoo.
Hey Mary Lou, I
Exciting.
did. I don't know how I did it, but I did.
Yeah.
Yes. So, would you like to kick us off with this topic?
Oh, wow. Yeah,
One.
okay.
I don't know how I did it, but I did.
We've had a lot of delicious conversations, you and I, around what's
Hang
going
on, hang on, hang on.
on.
I'm doubling up. There we go. I don't know why it does that. It brings up another window and it's got a delay on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. It's gone.
It will be delayed on Facebook, like as
Yes.
they're watching it. Um, but I just think, after having so many beautiful conversations with you around what's happening in the world,
Mm,
and talking a lot about heart space and being in our heart space, um, when you asked me to come on here and what is something that we could possibly talk about, the theme, it seems for me this year, is unity. And we just need to remind people to come back to their heart center, to remember what sovereignty really means,
yeah.
because there's such a big theme out there that, oh, I need to be given my sovereignty, and sovereignty has never seated. And, it's like nobody can give you sovereignty. Sovereignty is what you cultivate for yourself, number one. And then to recognize within all of that is the divide that's been happening in the world
Mm,
for the longest time, for as long as I've been alive. And I'll be 46 next week. So it's a long time.
mm,
But for as long as I can remember, everything's been a divide between, male, female, color, race, um, food preferences, whether you're carnivore, vegan. There's a battle between everything. Everything has just become, and I'm seeing it in kids sometimes, even it's like the best color's yellow, the best color's blue, and I'm right and you're wrong, and just divide over everything.
mm.
And I just think because it's been so generational and so indoctrinated in us to be divided, and you've got to stand for something or you stand for nothing kind of attitude,
Yeah.
which I understand the sentiment behind that, but at the same time, it's a divisive thing,
Mm,
very much a divisive thing. And we've seen that at such a rapid rate in the last, 3 to 4 years. It's been one thing after another, like it's just rapid rate coming,
and
since COVID started.
it's an easy trap to fall into. It's
So
so
easy,
easy for us
so
to,
easy.
yeah, to say to view ourselves in those terms. I'm right and you're wrong, because it's
100%.
like we we've fallen into this idea that if we have a passion, or if we have researched something so deeply, that we must be the ones who are telling the truth, and those people must be the ones who are in illusion and delusional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or, if I'm of a certain culture and I have these feelings about something,
Mm,
I'm right, and the other team is the enemy, and it's wrong.
mm,
And, I just really, my wish for humanity is for us to kind of zoom out and go, we're all humans. We're all having a human well, actually, we're all we're all really souls having a human experience.
mm,
Or I don't know whether we're humans having an experience in this soul, whichever way you want to look at it, right? But the thing is, we are all here having some sort of experience and an opportunity from that experience to grow.
yeah.
Um, and I know, I've actually dropped the whole thing of being an activist of any sort, because I just now really see it as such a divisive thing. And it's amazing to use your voice and stand up for something that you believe in. But I really do think, and my opinion is that we can do it without being divisive.
Yeah.
And that's where why I mentioned sovereignty. That's where sovereignty then really comes in, because then I'm not controlled by outside forces on how I act, think, and feel and speak. It is up to me how I choose to do that. So I'll give you an example, like, it's a big thing in my circles, and when people kind of, ask me questions because of my background, I'm Middle Eastern. Um, and Middle Easterners pretty much hate Israel. Like in general, that's a consensus. There's a hate for Israel, and Israel does not belong in the Middle East, and they are the foreigners. And it's a horrible thing to, and I understand the history behind it. I understand the bloodshed, the I've lived in the war. Like I've lived in the war for my first 10 years of my life. I get that. But because I've lived in that, I also have this perspective of how long would this fucking go for? Like
Yeah.
I said 46 next week, and we have fled the war to come to Australia. And 36 years later, it's still the same shit is happening in my country, in my home country, because of the same conflict. And yet it is more heated than ever right now for people to take sides. And, people who are not even affiliated with the Middle East or Israel are like either pro-Israel and pro-Palestine and wear it as a badge of honor, for example, on their Facebook pages. Um,
Yeah. So
and,
true.
you know, and I get it, you want to stand for something. I do get it. But let's please stand for humanity.
Mm,
Because guess what? No matter what circle you put around your Facebook profile picture, kids are still getting blown up in those areas on both sides
yeah.
and others. It's not just Israelis and Palestinians, but it's also Syrians, Lebanese, all the surrounding countries south of Lebanon. It's completely affected by this.
Yeah. The way I look at it is, and what I have seen over the years, because of course I wasn't born in that country, and so for me, my whole life has been watching it on the news, or seeing it on TV, or speaking to people like yourself who have experienced it. So it's always been secondhand
Yeah, of
me. And so I feel like I have a bit of a separation in my perspective of what's going
course.
on. And it reminds me of, because other countries like America say it's like a scab that's raw. And when they want to divert attention away from something, they will pick at the scab and flare up
Yep,
that divide that's
100%.
happening over there,
Yep.
and they will then point their cameras to that scab and to the hurt and to the people who are experiencing um, the hurt, and they will talk about it, and then they will get the rest of the world
And
talking about it.
amplify it.
Yes,
Yep.
and it amplifies exactly, and that
Yep.
reminds me of what happened in my family when, because there's three children in my family, right? And the one of the children will create an argument and then step back and watch as the argument blows up, and then on the side when the argument is happening, then they're kind of like free then to do what they want to do behind the scenes,
Oh,
if you
so,
know what I
and
mean.
isn't that such um deep
Such a
human
manipulation.
behavior? But it's
Yeah,
deep human behavior, and we all have it. We all
yeah,
have it because the human brain is designed, or human nature is designed to seek pleasure and avoid pain and get
yeah,
what they want. I mean, if you watch from a very young age, children, they do not give up. It's like, I want, and I will keep on plotting, doing, planning, submitting, whatever they know, like they will learn how to do all these different things in
yeah,
order to get what they want.
yeah.
It is, yeah, it is. It's
When there's two, like when there's something going on and there's two seemingly big powers at B, like that exist, and you need to be able to control them without without hurting yourself or without, much effort even,
Yeah,
um, then pitting them against each other is the perfect plan.
100%.
And seeing that blow up, and seeing that situation become heated and get as a distraction,
But
because
that we can apply
ultimately,
that to everything, right? Like especially in the last 3, 4 years. I
yeah,
mean, have a look at
yeah,
kind of it started with COVID,
yeah,
and it was masked against non-masked, and it was those who complied and stayed indoors
yeah,
versus those that didn't. It
yes.
was
So
um,
a recipe that works every time.
it works every time. It works every time, and then kind of the COVID stuff died down, and it's like, oh, let's bring in the abortion stuff again
Yeah,
and get people flared up about that. And what really saddens me the most is that now we've created communities, pockets of communities where it's like, I need to be around my like-minded people, people who think like me,
yeah,
um, in order to control that division, in
yeah,
order to control that conflict, because we've lost the art of respectful communication.
yes.
And we've lost the art of being able to learn and grow from each other when we
Mm,
have different opinions. I do not want to be surrounded by like-minded people at all.
yeah.
I actually don't, because I don't learn from like-minded people. If you think like me, it's like, well, I might as well look in the mirror. I might as well have a conversation with myself.
Oh, that's just giving me goosebumps. What you're saying is like, my whole body is lighting up from what you're saying because it's so
It's really
true.
deep and resonates in my heart. And so again, coming back and speaking about the heart, I want people who are like-hearted, who care about humanity, who want the best for humanity,
Mm,
and are willing to look at themselves in the way they contribute to that humanity.
yeah.
And that happens with growth. I met up with a beautiful bunch of mums yesterday. Some who were homeschooling, they had babies. Oh my God, I got the best baby fix yesterday, by the way, from all these mamas. And like I had a baby sleep on in my arms for an hour. It was just like the best feeling for me. It was gorgeous. And then, my homeschooling son and a few other homeschooling kids were running around, and we were just having these conversations. And, some of the mums were sharing about how they would be really uncomfortable going into a space with, say, their 3-year-old or 4-year-old because they were getting judged by this child's behavior, which was too much. And they just felt like, they didn't belong anywhere. And I'm like, just because they might be like-minded and they may think the same as you on certain topics does not mean they're like-hearted, and it means like they are your people. Um, because your people wouldn't judge you. Your people would hold space for you, and they would listen to what's going on for you, why you think the way that you do. You'd want to learn from each other. And the thing is, may I give like a quick little psychology kind of lesson here?
Yeah, of course.
If we have a look at something called the structure of reality, the structure of reality is right now around us, like when you're 2 years old in particular, and this is why it's so overwhelming for 2-year-olds, and they go through such a like, no, me do it, me want this. No, like, that defiant kind of stage that starts between 2 to 4 and 5.
Yeah.
If you look around you right now, you have got more than 200 million bits coming at you. Look at that spaceship behind you, the picture and those colors and the leaves and the books and the candles and whatever. You look around you, there are 200 million bits that are coming at you. And as the brain develops, we learn to decipher those bits depending on our own experience for our survival, basically. And so as a 2-year-old, you go, oh, that book is up there. I don't need that book. Okay, those pictures are not going to move off the wall. Like you're doing all of this unconsciously in your brain,
Mhm.
and you are only taking in 1%. So only 200 something bits of that 2 million bits that's surrounding you. But the 200 bits that you're going to take is going to be based on your own perception, based
Yeah.
on your past experience, based on your own traumas, based on your own belief
Mm,
system. As you grow, this starts happening. So the way we all looked at COVID is an event that happened, for example, and I use this because it is worldwide.
yes.
But the 8 billion people on the planet didn't see COVID exactly the same. They sorted it, they deciphered it, they distorted it, they deleted it, and they understood it based on their structure of reality because of the 200 bits that they were receiving.
Yes.
That is a huge thing. Once we start understanding that as humans, we go, oh, fuck, we're all right. We're all
Yes.
right. You and
Yes.
I are right because it is all based on our own structure of reality.
Yeah.
So if us humans then come together to understand each other's structure of reality, going, oh, wow, like what happened for you to become so scared and needing to wear a mask and lock yourself up and listen to authority?
Yeah.
What upbringing did you have? What's your structure of reality to have had that? Or oh my gosh, you're being so defined and you're not scared of wearing a mask and you said no to the jab and you won't get locked in. What sort of upbringing did you have to have that structure of reality?
Mm.
Rather than going into judgment. And judging is okay. To me, judging is okay. We've got a judging brain anyway. Judging keeps us safe. I have a spider on my shoulder. Fuck, I'm going to judge that jump and to keep me
Mhm.
safe.
Yeah.
Condemning is where humans go wrong.
Yeah.
You don't think the way I do, therefore you're wrong and you're bad. Divide.
So, Mary Lou, do you think that's because we've forgotten how to take responsibility for ourselves?
That's why I said sovereignty. We, we
Yeah.
we want sovereignty. We want others to give us sovereignty. It
Mm.
is so much easier to do that. We do not go within and go, how am I responsible for me?
Yes. That's the
How am
key
I?
thing.
And do you know what? This is why I love coaching kids so much because they get this. As soon as I go to a young person, who's responsible for you? Who controls you? And they're like, well, me. And then I might occasionally get a few kids like in group sessions going, oh, my teacher, my mum. I'm like, really? Really? Where's your mum right now?
Yeah.
Like, how is she controlling you right now? But isn't it so easy? Like, see, okay, so I've studied psychology and I love it. And I've been to psychologists myself, right? You go into a session, oh, let's talk about your past and let's blame mum and dad. Let's blame your
Yeah.
teachers. Let's blame the government. Let's blame every fucking thing that's outside of you except for you. And
Yeah.
it's not about blame, right? It's about how do I take responsibility? How do I want my life to be?
Yeah.
How do I want to show up? How do I want to speak? I'm not perfect here. And, we fuck up all the time, but we learn by those fuck ups. And rather than condemning ourselves and others for those fuck ups, it's like, well, how do we come together? Because that's how every war's been won. It's to
Mm.
divide and conquer.
Mm.
But imagine if Israelis and Arabs come together. Imagine how many powers to be in first world nations would fucking lose out if Israelis
Yeah.
and Palestinians come
Yeah.
together.
They're the only winners. They're the only winners
There
in
is no
a divided
human, like,
world.
the soldiers aren't winners,
Yes.
the civilians aren't winners on either side.
Yeah.
And be proud, be proud. I'm very proud Lebanese woman. I really am. I love my culture. I love my country. I don't agree with everything though. And I see its fault. And I go, well, how do I want to show up in that?
Yeah.
And when I lived in the States, literally I had a best friend who was Jewish. And it sounds really funny, like a joke. There was a Jewish, an Arab, and a German sitting at the bar, and we
Yeah.
all fucking got along. End of story.
Yes. Awesome. I love that joke.
That's it, like full stop. And we respected each other and we understood that the culture we were born into does not have to define how we show up and how we speak to each other and how we get along.
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it? We judge ourselves at the end of the day. We're judging
Totally.
ourselves. If I if I don't show up and be the patriot for my country, if I don't show up and be a right fighter, if I because I
How
know
drilled is that in us?
I'm guilty of this myself, 100% guilty of this myself, because I had thought if I didn't show up and put the argument forward for whatever was the flavor of the month in the conversation.
Yeah, you weren't standing your ground. You weren't
Yes,
you were flaky.
yes.
If
And I was
you
browbeating. I was browbeating people into seeing my side of the story and to see my opinion and to see how, because this was my experience and I was trying to show them my experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, the more I tried to show them, the more I was talking, the more I was trying to change their mind, say,
Yeah.
the more they would stick
Look,
in there.
and
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And do you know why that is? Again, I'll go into the
yeah,
psychological perspective of that is because we feel safe
mm,
if people understand us.
yeah,
So in order for me to feel safe, I need you to understand me.
yeah,
Because again, I don't make myself feel safe. I
yeah,
don't take full responsibility
yes,
for me.
yes. That was what I
I
was.
need you to understand and see my point of view. Look, I do this quite often with my mum, and then we end up in huge arguments. And it's all because I want to be, what do humans want? They want to be seen,
Yeah,
they want to be heard, loved, respected.
yeah,
That is the basis of our heart, is that we want to be seen, heard, validated.
yeah,
And so, but when that is used in an unconsciously negative way, I need you to see, what I think, feel the way I feel. I need you to understand me so I
yeah,
can feel safe with you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
how about I get so strong in who I am and what I am and how I show up and how I want to be, that you can be whoever the fuck you choose to be and it won't affect me.
yeah, exactly. Now, the way it is for me is I don't, like, sometimes I will give an opinion if I'm asked, but if I'm in a group setting now, I listen and I ask questions.
And opinions are great,
Mm.
but it's about, yeah, getting curious and also
Yeah,
knowing
being
how other
curious.
people,
Yeah,
what other people's opinions are. And it's like, oh wow, like why is it that you think that way? And I've just got this uncanny ability now to just have this small conversation with people and kind of just see their whole trauma and why they are the way that they are. Like
mm,
I can just go, oh, that's your structure of reality. Like you must have had some sort of trauma, some sort of experience somewhere along the way. I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today without my experiences, right? Same with you. And that's what shapes us.
mm,
But we get to choose, if we want to, consciously, the meaning we put to those experiences.
yeah,
And this is a way that I explain it to kids in really basic terms. You've got an event that happens, and let's say there's Claudia and Mary Lou that are waiting at school for their parents to pick them up, and their parents no show, and they've been waiting 30-40 minutes. So now they decide to take an action and start walking home. Claudia starts walking home and she's like, oh my gosh, my parents forget about me. I'm not
mm,
lovable.
yeah,
They don't care about me. They just, I'm a nobody. I'm not really good enough for them to even pick me up from school. So we start going into from the conscious to the unconscious. And when we start, like consciously, we start saying these words, but unconsciously as well, they start going to our unconscious. What have we done? We've created a belief system that no matter how much my parents say, I love you, it's like, oh, no, you don't. Because
yeah,
my brain has created this belief based on the meaning that I've put to these actions and event that have taken place. Now, have that enough times happen. Claudia then goes home to show her parents, oh my gosh, I got A on this test. Oh, hang on a minute, honey. I'm just cooking dinner right now. I'll be with you in a second. Claudia walks off again. Oh, they just don't give a shit what I do. Like my grades don't even matter to them. Why should I even bother?
yeah,
And you reinforce that belief system. You're distorting that information that's coming through, believe, based on your experiences, on your perception. And so we can change that, because then Mary Lou does the same thing and starts walking home, but then going from the conscious to the unconscious, like, oh my gosh, my parents trust me. They love me. They think I'm so mature to be able to walk home on my own. Isn't this freaking great?
yeah,
Different belief system,
yeah,
different connection with the parents, right?
yeah, yeah. It
And
happened
it's
last night.
never,
This exact thing that you're talking about, it happened last night to me. when I
Do
was
share.
yeah, I was doing something in the kitchen and Bryn came in and we started talking just, you know, as you do when you're doing something and my son will often come and talk to me while I'm doing something else. And the subject of Juliet's business when she was 11 came up. She started to raise money for motor neurone disease research. And we called it CSJ Lemonade. And he was saying, Mum, can you believe that Juliet was my age when she started CSJ Lemonade? And I said, actually, she was younger than you. She was 11 because he's 13. And he went, really? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I was so angry. I was really, really angry that you called it CSJ because I wasn't in it, because CSJ standard for our initials, right? And he was like, because my initial wasn't in the name. And I said, when Juliet was 11, he was 3 and 4 years old. And I said, Bubby, you helped us because that's right, because I was juicing some limes last night and it reminded him we used to sit at the table and juice lemons for the
That's an
lemonade.
anchor for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brought back the memory. And he said, and I said, what do you mean your initial wasn't in it? And he said, well, CSJ was Claudia, Spencer, and Juliet, which was the three of us. And I
Mm.
said, actually, Bubby, CSJ was Claudia, Sam, my dad, and Juliet.
Oh,
Because we were the three. Juliet was the one that started it. She was the one that came up with the idea that she wanted to raise money. And she wanted to raise the money because of my dad, because he was the one who
yeah,
had
I remember.
neurone disease. And then I was the one who was helping her do it in managing her and managing the business. And so that's why we called it CSJ, because it was like the three legs of the tripod. And he went, oh, he said, I thought it was Spencer, which is
Your
his
dad.
dad.
Yeah.
And I thought I was the only one that got left out.
So what story for the last 10 years, 9
Yeah,
years has he built around that? So no matter
exactly.
how often you might say to him, you're part of the family, or hey, I want you involved in this, he would subconsciously be, no, I'm
Yes,
not. They had their three initials and I was left out.
yes.
And that's a story he would have
And it made him
created.
angry all this time, and I never
Exactly.
knew.
No, no. And it was the same. I actually did something very similar with my mom, my brother, and I won't share it here because it is quite personal, but I'm 45 and only like between 44 and 45 did I really clear this, because I understood it to be one thing and it was completely different.
Yeah,
And that's a story we can carry with us for so long
yeah,
because we have forgotten how to respectfully communicate.
yes, yeah. Because
And we just shove
I,
things in and we just go, this is the way it is. But imagine
yeah,
when we stuck that.
yeah, when you stack it, it can become such a huge burden.
Exactly.
And it's reinforcing the story that we've told ourselves. Like we're just continuously
Yeah.
piling on. See, there you go. See, I knew it.
There's the evidence. You start looking for the
Yeah,
evidence of,
yeah,
oh, look, I'm always left out. Oh, no, she loves her more. Oh, I'm not included. Oh,
yeah,
whatever it may be, right?
yeah,
And that starts happening on an unconscious level
yeah,
until we start speaking about it. And that's why, there is such a fine line for me in the coaching world in particular. Like I go, yeah, I'm a life coach, but I actually am a little bit more than that, because I do hold that space for people to have their yarn, to tell their story, to get it out. We need to get the story out of our system. We need to
yeah.
give that a voice.
Yes,
But then we also do not need to amplify and get stuck in the story.
yeah.
And we need to go from the story and go, okay, but this is where I am now and this is where I want to be. And how do I close that?
Like a reality check.
100%. Like, no, okay, I feel left out in my family because of this, and this is what happened. And this is why I love Byron Katie's work to a certain degree, of her questions, like the 4 questions, but the first two are the most powerful for me, of going, is this really true? and how do I know it's true? Because it's looking for the evidence. And for me, it's always about giving the brain evidence of something being true or not. So how do I know this is true?
Yeah.
And then if it really is true, and I've got a definite 100% answer that this is true, well, is this really serving me? Is where I go into. Is this
Exactly.
really
That's the
serving
one.
me?
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, how do I want to show up in this?
Yeah.
Because
Because
it's
you're putting
not the
so much.
event or that person. Again, we go back to this sovereignty thing. See how
Yeah.
it all kind of ties in, no?
It certainly does. Because if you're putting so much effort, so much of your energy into proving that something is reality,
Yeah,
why wouldn't we want to put that effort and 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 that time and that energy into something that serves us?
exactly.
So instead of looking at the ways in which the world is beating us down, let's look at the ways in which the world is giving us opportunities to
A
step
hundred
up and
percent.
step out. Yes.
A hundred
And I
percent.
think the journey that I've been on and the shadow work and all of the stuff that I've been stifling through and sifting through and you know uncovering and like all that deep dark dirty work,
Yeah,
that's what has highlighted to me more and more as I go through the journey is if I am putting so much effort into something,
yeah,
you know,
anything.
let it be serving me. Let it be something
Yeah,
that's going to help carry me to the next stage or to the
that's
next
it.
step or whatever. Because, like you said, we are our own best friends. We are the ones where when we give ourselves that gift,
Yeah,
like when we're not relying on us on an outside source to give us that validation,
yeah,
then we every step of the way we can be there for ourselves. It's a constant in our
100%.
lives.
And
But
remember, imagine teaching this. I go, okay, here I go. But, my passion is about the young people because I really do believe that if we give tools to young people around this sort of stuff, then they are going to be a lot less damaged as adults. A
yeah,
lot. And, I might have said this on here before, we all start off, like I have this analogy that we all start off as this little sprout of an onion and we grow and we grow, we grow. Now, if we're being given the tools, we only get to a stage where we kind of just, our stuckness is not stuck for so long. But when you
yeah,
don't have those tools and you grow into this big onion and you just hit that midlife crisis or midlife, whatever they call it, I call it midlife awakening. It is a midlife awakening if you choose it to be, right? Or it can be a complete spiral down of a crisis. But the thing is, you will hit rock bottom and there's nowhere else to go but up. And I just love giving the tools to young people to kind of go, well, how is this serving me? Is this, I do it with my boys. I'm like, yeah, okay, go ahead and do that. How is that helping you? Like,
mm,
I can't make you eat the right foods. I can't make you go to bed at a certain time. I can't make you look after your hygiene. I've given you the tools. You are in charge of your
yeah.
body.
You need to make the decision
and
exactly.
and then you need to live with the consequences of if that doesn't happen. And also I've made it really clear to my boys lately, if you get sick from choosing to eat lots of junk and lots of dairy, especially if you start getting all clogged up, well, I'm not going to change my plans to accommodate you. You're not going to get sick on my
Your
watch.
choices.
Like, that's a choice you made.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean you're going to sit on your tablet and do nothing all day either.
yeah,
Like, that's the consequence. And I sound like, again, like people sometimes think I'm all like, oh, fluff and fairy and all that shit. No, I'm not. I'm one of the strictest mum you will ever know. And I'm very down and matter of fact with my boys. Even yesterday we're having a conversation around gaming. I love this so much. And I was explaining the dopamine hit that, happens when they are gaming and on this scrolling on this stuff. And, we're talking about then how everything else you're not going to get your rush from as much and nothing is going to seem as exciting. So that's why you get a lot of kids are sitting on the couches, wanting to just game or sitting in their chair, just wanting to game because of the dopamine, like what
yeah.
they're getting from that in their body. So it's not actually even their fault, really. Like, they can't control that. And my little one turns around and goes, well, I get dopamine when I'm with my friends and I play footy. And I just
So
thought
true
that
though.
was so
So,
cute.
so true
I
though.
get
So true.
dopamine.
Because my son's been through that, right? He's been through he through during COVID, right? Couldn't see his friends anymore, which was a
Yeah.
huge, huge life-changing thing for him because friends are so important to him.
A
He
hundred
I
percent. The age. It's the age though.
Yeah.
Like
And
from 10 onwards, it's like when you're separating, from the family and you're
yeah,
starting to step into that rites of patches of becoming on your way to that adulthood.
yeah.
And what they've done to our kids with lockdowns and all that is absolute criminal
Yeah,
to
it
me.
was formative years. Those 2 years were formative years for him.
Very,
And the fact that he couldn't see his friends in person meant that he spent a lot of time connecting with them online through gaming because that's the only way they could play with
same,
each other. And
same.
so that became a huge part of his life. And I saw him really go down that road of being constantly on it.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where, and instead of nagging him and going, oh, you shouldn't be on it, and I'm your mum and get off now, and all of this stuff, I was like, okay, I'm going to offer him other alternatives. And he got really heavily into AFL and he fell in love with AFL on
Mhm.
his own. I didn't make him do that. I offered
Yeah.
him alternatives to gaming where he could meet new.
And he's getting that dopamine fix from AFL now. See, that's why I love,
Absolutely.
as much as I don't like winter and I love my, spring and summer season more. I love now that we're heading into autumn winter because footy starts here in
Yeah.
Melbourne. And
Yeah.
my boys are footy fanatics. They've also really got into it from a very young age, pre-gaming, to be honest. And I see how much that drives them.
Yeah.
My youngest in particular will put his iPad down for a game
Yes.
to go outside and kick the ball.
Yeah.
And so to me, he's getting that dopamine fix in that way versus,
Yeah.
the way that, yeah.
And he had a friend come over and stay. He's got a whole new group of friends now, not through AFL, through he loves his scooter, and because he's a physical kid, he just loves moving his body and
Yeah.
being free, on the scooter and scootering around and stuff. And he's got all these friends that he's met through that, and they come and stay here. And one of them, he's got a whole setup in his room, a gaming setup, and one of them was he sitting on the computer while Bryn was just kind of on his bed on his phone. And I walked in and they were separated. One was on the computer and one was sitting on the bed. And I was like, oh, so I said something like, you boys like sitting there not facing each other, like you should be talking kind of thing. Like I didn't say it like that, but that was the meaning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and Bryn piped up and went, yeah, man, like you shouldn't be on that so much. You'll get addicted. Where
Oh,
the hell is this
too
coming
funny.
from? Because he must hear me say it in life, like he must be hearing it or he must be watching videos about it or something, because he's not on it nearly as much anymore. And he's telling his friend to watch out. You'll get addicted if you spend too much time
That's
on
so
that.
good. That's so good.
So this
Unfortunately, I've got to
self-awareness.
say, my boys are not. They're
But he came
steerable.
to that conclusion
Yeah.
because he saw he was self-aware enough to see himself going down that road when he found an alternative that he loved more. And then now he looks at his setup at home and he plays it occasionally, but he does see how much of a black hole it was for him.
Yeah. So
And
he
he's
had
like,
to
I
go
don't want
through
to
that
go
black
there.
hole though, didn't he? How young is he now?
He's 13.
Yeah, wow. I was such a pivotal age in their life as well, in what they're doing,
Yes.
isn't it?
But if we have the trust for our children, like if we hold space for them, if I hold space for Bryn and he's learning a lesson, a hard lesson, like he ripped the nail off his toe and he got an infection and he was dealing with it so for so long, like I think about a month it took to heal
Yeah,
because
wow.
and damaging it, like and it was getting infected because he was using his feet. And so I watched him and I held space for him. And when I do that and, and allow him to come to me when he wants to, because he's having trouble and he needs advice or whatever, and
Yeah.
I'm not pushing in, I'm not going in and trying to control the situation. I'm holding space for him. I'm trusting him. He always comes through. He always comes through
He
to,
feels safe. He's not being judged.
yeah.
He's being seen. He's being held. He's being heard.
And I
That's the
think that's what
basis
we
of
need
what
to
we
do for,
need.
yeah, we need to do that for each other.
100%, 100%. And there's such a war out there right now, a psychological war happening. Again, coming back to the whole, unity and diversity. It's like
Yeah,
we can be diverse, we can be unique, we can be ourselves. But let's just stop putting our expectations on others in order for us to feel safe and just learn to hold that space and
yeah.
learn to see others and
Let them live their lessons.
and
Let
let
them live their
exactly,
lessons.
exactly,
Don't get
exactly.
involved.
Exactly. So it's a huge topic, right? But I just
Yeah,
really, just invite people watching to just be able to go back into their heart space, go back into, well, how am I responsible for this? What can I contribute in this? Um, yeah, it's just really fascinating. And even, when people do come at you, like went to a meeting um where there was a lot of see this is where I think it landed for me. I don't want to be around like-minded people. So I went to this meeting with so-called like-minded people, and I had to step outside whilst someone was on stage talking or whatever, and I had to step outside and make a couple of calls and send a couple of texts because I was getting my boys back that night. And I had this guy out of nowhere come at me. You're part of the problem. You shouldn't be on your phone. This is how you're being tracked. And just full on had a go at me, coming from his structure of reality and his paranoia of what's going on in the world.
yeah,
Um, and I started to get quite defensive and quite aggressive myself, wanting to tell him to F off, like mind your own business kind of thing. And I came back into my heart space and I went, thank you so much for your concern. I'm just calling my children. Do you mind if you just mind your own business, please?
yeah.
And he backed right off. He had nothing to say,
Yeah, because you were nice to him.
nothing to
You didn't,
say.
and he didn't pull you down into the argument.
And the division and trying to
Yeah,
prove myself right. And why am I on my phone? And
yeah,
he needs to see it my way. And how dare he? And
yeah,
all that bullshit, right?
yeah.
So that's just an example of how I've been living that. And so
Mhm.
if anything you can take away from this talk when you're watching it
Yeah, this
is
is so
coming
good.
back to your heart space.
This stuff is like, this is so good, this conversation, because this is exactly these are practical steps that people can take. And it's so hard in the moment. I understand that because when
Really?
our emotions are like bubbling up and somebody's rude to us, it's so difficult to come into the heart space and show respect where you weren't respected, show patience when people weren't patient with you, show the things in the moment that are being denied us.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to
It
give.
totally is, but it's a practice. And you know what it
Yes,
is again? It's you doing the growth yourself. I
yeah,
don't want to
making a
call it
choice.
the work anymore, but call it the growth. You are doing the growth. You are healing your triggers.
Yeah,
Because when somebody says anything to you and you react back to it, you're triggered.
yes, you're
And
being
they're not
controlled.
responsible for your triggers. That's you who's responsible for those triggers. And if you can heal those triggers, then those reactions are going to be less of a reaction and more of um, a conscious action that you
Yeah,
choose to take.
yeah,
But you need to heal those triggers. And most of the time, when you flare back at somebody, it's because there's a wound there. They've put salt on the wound and you flared back in response to that. You haven't healed it.
yeah,
Because once it's healed and they come at you, well, if you put salt on a healed wound, like there's no cut, that's
yeah.
not
There's a
going to hurt.
barrier there. Yeah, right.
You see? So, yeah, it's work on your own growth, work on your own triggers, come back and focus on you. You're not
Yeah,
being egotistical here. You're not being selfish. You're not, you know, take care of you, you do your own growth, and then all of that won't matter.
Yeah. Marilou, thank you so much. It's
Oh, thank you, my
such a
darling heart.
beautiful
What a beautiful way to
conversation.
start the day before I go off and do homeschooling stuff with my kid now. But what a beautiful, delicious way to start the day. Really heartwarming. Thank
I'm
you
so
so
grateful for you.
much. I'm
Yeah, I'm
so
so
grateful for
grateful.
you, darling, and for the space you hold. Thank you. And if anyone has any comments or any questions or anything to add to this, we would love to hear your own experiences. We would love to hear where you're at with your journey. No judgment. And if you need help with this, reach out to either of us because, I think the more of us that practice this, the better the world. And I'm selfish. I'm a mama of two boys. I'm selfish. I want a better place for my kids. And
Yeah,
this is how
me
we're going
too.
to create it.
Yeah,
So
me
please
too.
reach out.
Yeah. Mwah. Love you.
Take care, my love.
See you next time. I'll see
Bye.
you guys in Sheets of Love next Friday. Thanks for your time, Mary Lou. Mwah. Bye.